Good evening, and welcome to a special program that kicks off an initiative for the benefit of the children of Wilmington. Several months ago, a group of residents came together for the purpose of exploring the possibility of installing a new field at Wilmington High School. Over the past several years, communities nationwide have begun installing infill turf fields in recognition of the opportunity for increased usage by high school and youth sports and for the long-term cost savings that such fields offer. One concern frequently expressed by residents in Wilmington is the lack of open space and field space available to our families. Currently, due to concerns about wear and tear on the existing grass field at Wilmington High School, the Wilmington High School football, soccer, lacrosse, and field hockey teams at each level have limited or no access to that field. Similarly, our youth teams in these sports have no access to that field. The installation of an infill turf field system will allow for the use of the field by all of these high school and youth sports without the concern of damage to the field. I'm joined this evening by Mark Nassif, representing Wilmington Youth Soccer, by Kevin Blanche, representing Wilmington Youth Lacrosse, and also by Wilmington High School Athletic Director Ed Harrison. Each of these gentlemen will be speaking this evening on the benefits that such a field offers the children of Wilmington. Following these presentations, we'll get to the exciting part, our drawing of the fundraising raffle tickets. The purpose of this raffle has been to raise money without reaching into the town's budget to explore the initial stages, the feasibility of installing the infill turf field system at Wilmington High School and the costs associated with that project. At this point, I'm pleased to introduce Mark Nassif, Wilmington Youth Soccer.
Thanks, Scott, and welcome everyone. I'd like to start by taking a few minutes of your time and giving you an idea, give you a background of what goes on with Wilmington Youth Sports here in Wilmington. Today, if you look back 20 years, Wilmington Youth Sports programs were very limited. Soccer wasn't around, lacrosse wasn't around, there's probably baseball, and there were very few kids playing sports. You compare that to today, where there are many youth sports organizations, soccer, lacrosse, football, baseball, and softball. There is a need, a big need and a growing need for fields here at Wilmington. Just to give you an idea, the soccer organization has over 1,400 Wilmington youths playing. So, baseball and softball has over 1,000, lacrosse has over 300, and football over 300. So you can see the numbers are very big, and the need for space for these kids to play those sports is increasing every day. In addition to the youth programs, and I guess because of the success of the youth programs, the sports are also growing at the high school at all levels. I think we're now seeing JV and freshman teams in different levels of sports, including soccer. Lacrosse has brought in 3 different teams on the high school level as well. So the need for field space is not only for the youth programs, but also at the high school. If you take a look at the current, just to give you an idea of the current resources that we have as parents for our kids to play youth sports here in Wilmington, we have fields like the Shawsheen Field, the fields down at the Town Hall, Woburn Street, the North, and the Town Park. And all those fields are used constantly by the youth programs and by the high school as well. I think when if you were to look at Shawsheen, for instance, there's 6 months a year. That field is used between 4 to 10 hours a day by over 200 to 300 kids. And on a weekend, when there are games played, there's probably 1,300 kids running on that field every day, every weekend, I should say. If you think about what that means to the field, there's a lot of wear and tear. The town has to provide a lot of maintenance to that field and take care of it, and it's costly. And the town does do a great job with all the fields in town. But the more kids you put on it, the harder it is to maintain and keep up those fields. In addition to those fields, the youth programs also have to reach out to Textron and AGFA and ask to use their fields. These corporations have been very nice to provide those fields through the youth programs and allow us to continue to provide, allow us to let all kids play sports and not have to limit it to because of a lack of space. If you compare this to the high school and the Alumni Field, if you take a look at what the high school uses Alumni Field for, that field is used in the fall only. And there's a majority of the high school teams, whether it's JV, varsity, or freshmen, who don't get to play many games, if any games, at the high school. they have to go play down at the Shawsheen or the North or Woburn Street. And it's because that field takes a beating in the fall from all the sports and games that are played there, and therefore they're forced to shut it down during the spring and allow it to rest in order to recuperate and be ready for the fall. Now you get to, if you take a look at, let me say, when we came together as a bunch of youth organizations and said, what do we do? And we talked with Ed Harrison as well. One thing we found out is that the high school field was very underutilized. And one way to fix that was to do what many towns in the Commonwealth are doing, as well as across the nation, and many sports organizations, and that would be to add an infield artificial turf field. If you think about, when we watched the Patriots this past fall, they just changed their field over from natural grass to artificial turf. They did that because of the beating, that they were putting on that field, in that they wanted to use it more. So I think, just seeing that the Patriots are using something like that says the fields are safe and they're good for the athletes. So I think that's one probably the biggest reason why we are trying to do this, is to get additional field space and allow not only the youth programs to benefit from less usage from the high school teams on fields, but also to provide all the kids within the high school to play at their home's field, at least a few of their games, if not all of their games. With regard to turf fields, they are very safe. They've come a long way since when I was a kid. If you were to look at a turf field, it was concrete covered with green, covered with green carpet, basically. Today, they're softer. They're much more like grass. They're safe. You can play on them, whether it's in the rain. You can clear off the snow. But even more importantly, once the rain is over, if you don't play in the rain, you can get on that field right away and play. You don't have to worry about filling holes before a game, because so a kid doesn't sprain their ankle, but instead the field is safe and it's ready to use at every point in time. So it's low maintenance, it's safer, and I think overall it'll be better for the kids of Wilmington, and also it will provide the youth of Wilmington a nicer place to play their games. I'm going to turn it over to Kevin now for a couple of words on lacrosse.
Thank you very much, Wilmington families, for taking the time to watch us tonight and understand, like we do, the importance of a turf field at the high school. It was probably 3 years ago that I sat down with a few other fathers and decided that we would bring the game of lacrosse to Wilmington. And I thought that would be a great thing for the community. And little did I know that when we did that and we decided to do that, that we would make such an impact on all of the other sports in the community. At that time, we didn't know the shortage of fields when we brought this program to Wilmington. After being involved, we realize now what the issues are, and it was brought to my attention that there could be a possibility for a turf field at the high school, and I was proud to be a part of it. I'm a city boy growing up in Everett, moving here 13 years ago. And when I go back to cities like Everett and Malden, Revere, Cambridge, almost every city has a turf field now. Like Wilmington, even though we're further north, we still have a limited amount of field space in the community, similar to the cities. It just seems that the cities have learned about this a lot quicker than a lot of the suburbs have. From my days officiating college and high school lacrosse, I've been in communities all over New England, and there's probably only a handful up in the North Shore that are currently playing on grass fields. If you look locally at towns like North Andover, Billerica, and just to name a few, they all are playing currently on turf fields. And the main reason, I thought, was that they were just trying to better their fields. But the true reality was they were trying to do what we're trying to do here in Wilmington, and that is to take a resource that we're very limited in and be able to use it on a full-time basis, as opposed to what Mark very succinctly said was just one season out of the year. So I hope that you can get on board with us and realize the importance of the field for our community. And with no further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Ed Harrison.
Good evening. I've been asked to come here and give some information about the use of Alumni Field. To give you a little bit of background, the field, when it was made back in the middle 50s, it was used primarily just for football and maybe a couple of games a month. It wasn't used that often. And until, I would say, the early 1970s, until field hockey started using Alumni Field, that was the only use that it had. Then once we started with the lights, put the lights up in the late 90s, the field now has taken a lot more games. We had roughly over 40 varsity JV games there in a 2-month span. In the fall, in September and October, with football, field hockey, boys and girls soccer, there was quite a few contests being played out there. By the time you get around to November, the field is pretty much had it. And a couple of teams, we have the JV football and the freshman football, sometimes don't even get an opportunity, to play on the field. All right. It is a problem, trying to keep the field, in good playing condition. All right. But it's also, I believe, a necessity for what we've been doing, I should say, with the the advent of these other teams being able to use, the high school field. I think it's a great setting. The complex that we have now with the brand new track, along with the the seating capacity. Just the setup that we have, I think it's a great place to watch a game. Watch football, field hockey, boys and girls soccer, a track meet, and hopefully soon lacrosse. The one good thing about if we were able to do this particular project and get the field turf in, we don't use it on the weekends from a high school standpoint. All right, which would open up the field, to the youth programs. All right, we also don't use it, in the summer, because we're trying to, bring the grass back, and that would also be available for some of the camps, for some of the different programs that are run during the summer. During the spring, the only thing we have out there right now is our spring track. Spring track does absolutely nothing, to the field. We would also be bringing in, in the future, bringing lacrosse games in there. We'd have that opportunity. It's a type of situation where a field like this can be used, as Mark and a few have already mentioned. It can be used in just about any kind of weather. I have seen a couple of soccer games, in a driving rain, and as they said, it doesn't affect them one bit. And as Mark had mentioned also that, the field, like I said, if you had bad weather, whatever, you can be playing on it, 15 minutes later. It just doesn't make any difference. It's a great opportunity, for the town, especially with the, the field problems that we have. So I think that it's a real good idea. And I'm hoping that we're going to be able to move forward with this. I'd like to thank the youth programs, for coming forward. They put a lot of time and effort into this. And as I said, I think it's a win-win for the high school and for all of the youth programs. All right, thank you very much.
All right, good evening once again, and as I said earlier, now for the fun part. We're going to do the raffle. We'd like to thank everyone who purchased a raffle ticket. We appreciate it very much. We'd also especially like to thank the Wilmington Knights of Columbus for co-sponsoring it and for lending us their tumbler this evening. Thank you to Youth Lacrosse, Youth Soccer, and Wilmington Pop Warner for very, very generous donations to this effort. And I'd also like to recognize those folks who've been working with us and who've sold many tickets over the last few weeks and months. Mike Newhouse, Mike Fay, Linda Ducharme, Sharon Kelly, Joe Langone, Ed Harrison and Mark Nassif, Mike Kyra, and John Bonish. Thank you very much. I'm going to run through the rules of the raffle, even though it's printed on the back of your ticket if you have one. The first ticket drawn will be for third place, third prize, which is a dinner for 10 generously donated by Fakasha's Restaurant. The second ticket drawn will be for the second prize, which is a weekend at Loon Mountain. And finally, the third ticket that's drawn will be for the grand prize, which is $10,000. I'm going to ask Chris Neville from WCTV, who we also would like to thank for letting us have this time tonight in studio, to put the tickets in and to give the tumbler several spins before we draw. Chris? All right, who's mechanically inclined? Came out easily. There you go. That way. It's $10,000. It's worth waiting for. All right. Keep going? No, I think you've done it. Once again, the first ticket out will be for third prize, which is dinner for 10 at Fakasha's Restaurant. And the winner is in the room. It's Ed Harrison. Congratulations, Ed. Glad that wasn't first prize. Sorry. All right. The second ticket drawn, once again, will be for a weekend at Loon Mountain. Somebody outside the room, please. Okay, the winner of the weekend at Loon Mountain is Mark, not Nassif, Mark Conley, Fiorenza Drive in Wilmington. And the third and last ticket pulled will be for the grand prize of $10,000. And the winner is Mario Perella.
There you go.
We will contact each of the winners. Thank you for watching this evening, and please stay tuned in the weeks and months to come for more information on TV, through your friends, and also through the town crier regarding this effort. Thank you very much to WCTV and to all the gentlemen here this evening.